Okay, welcome here. We're at War Room Battleground. It is Friday, 17 June, year of our Lord 2022. We got a lot to get through today. By the way, a special tomorrow, amazing filmmaker Claire Dooley is going to join me in the house here in the War Room. She'll be here. We're going to go through her about the convoy and about how the convoy, not the Canadian convoy, but the one that was inspired by Canada, the convoy that came all the way across the United States about the mandates, the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates. Incredibly inspirational film. In Peace and War, she'll be here. It's going to be pretty dramatic, so make sure you're there. We're going to get a poster up on this here momentarily, where I can see it. Okay, I want to go to. We got a lot to go through. I got kind of my murderer's row of our best guests, chock-a-block here in Battleground. Let's start with Mike Davis. Mike, the whole Capitol Hill has been in lockdown around the Supreme Court, and particularly now around the back of the Supreme Court. Everybody sees the fences in the front, the highly dramatic. You can't go on the beautiful steps anymore. You can't get close to that magnificent kind of Greek architecture. Looks like the Pantheon. You can't get near a Parthenon. You can't get near any of that because it's blocked off in the front. What people don't see is all the access points to the Supreme Court in back is all up armored. You got Federal Protective Service, the marshals associated with the court. You got the Capitol Hill Police, but on all the streets that have access, you can't get to it. But you can still go over to Supreme Court Justice's house and protest and terrorize their kids and terrorize their neighbors. What is going on with these bills? I know you've been all over this. What is up with the protection of the justices? Look, the guys tell me out here that you talk to on Capitol Hill, you go there and they say, hey, there's been so many bomb threats about the beautiful court itself and potential acts of terrorism to put it on fire. There's been all these call-ins on about a potential trouble with the justices, violence to the justices, even assassinations, and they've had an assassination attempt of which the mainstream media is buried. So what's the story here?
Yeah, so 46 days ago, this draft Supreme Court decision overturning Roe versus Wade leaked out, and there have been serious threats against Supreme Court justices and their families since that day. Supreme Court justices and their families had to be removed from their homes. There have been illegal protests outside of these Supreme Court justices' homes. It is obstruction of justice under 18 U.S.C. 1507 Federal Criminal Code to show up to a Supreme Court justice's home for the purposes of protesting and intimidating them on a pending case. And the problem is that Attorney General Merrick Garland has refused to enforce this federal criminal statute. And the natural and probable consequence of people showing up to federal judges' homes is you dox them. And then bad people want to show up and try to assassinate them. That's exactly what happened in 2020 with U.S. District Court Judge Esther Salas, an Obama appointee in New Jersey. Her 20-year-old son Daniel was killed in their home, and her husband Mark was seriously wounded. We have been warning about this for the last 46 days. The Attorney General didn't even put out a statement until 9 days after this leak and these death threats, and he has done nothing to arrest people who were protesting outside of these Supreme Court justices' homes, terrorizing them. There was a man from California who traveled across the country. He had a gun, he had zip ties, he had pepper spray, he had padded shoes, he had burglary tools. He was going to sneak in to Justice Kavanaugh's home in the middle of the night, zip tie them apparently, and murder them, assassinate a Supreme Court justice. And like you said, Steve, crickets from the mainstream media. And so the Attorney General absolutely needs to step up. Just today, after 46 days of the Democrats playing games, the House, the Democrats in the Senate, the Democrats in the House, and the Democrat president finally signed a very limited measure to increase security for Supreme Court justices and their families. And they're finally starting to announce that the FBI might start looking in to these illegal, obstructing, terrorizing protests at these justices' homes. Remember, for January 6th, they have a website up with the hundreds of people, every grandma who trespassed onto the Capitol grounds on January 6th. They have a website up. They've had a manhunt for over a year for these people, but they can't be bothered to arrest people who are harassing, obstructing justice outside of the Supreme Court justice's home.
Why did it take? By the way, Schumer kind of got this going, saying, hey, you sowed the wind, you're going to reap the whirlwind, putting a challenge, I think specifically on Kavanaugh. Why did it take Nancy Pelosi so long to do this, number one? And number two, is it an impeachable offense when we take power in January of what Merrick Garland has failed to do?
So the Democrats have sowed the seeds of hatred and violence since 2020, when Chuck Schumer went to the Supreme Court steps while the Supreme Court was hearing that at that moment an abortion case. And Schumer threatened Kavanaugh.
He just froze. Is he free? Okay, if he's not free, he's got to reboot. Here's what we want to do. I want to go to Darren Beattie. Let's flip over to Darren Beattie and we'll reboot. Do we have Darren Beattie up?
I'm here.
Hey, Darren, we're going to get back to Mike Davis in a moment. Darren, you've seen this lawlessness around the Roe v. Wade. You've seen the city in lockdown. It's very tense. They're waiting for this decision. I happen to think the decision will come in the last day or two, so they'll get out of town before the heavy artillery of the radical left comes together. But, Mike made the analogy that, hey, they've got the most extensive investigation in the history of the FBI. This includes Pearl Harbor, the communists in the 1950s, the infiltration of the State Department and the communist infiltration in the United States of America, the Vietnam War, 9/11. January 6th is the most extensive, they brag about it, most extensive investigation in history. You're seeing this thing on the J6 panel. Give us your thoughts. I think people look to you as the guy that's got the big picture. And by the way, I see that Tony Lyons and Skyhorse is going to put out a 9/11 type documentation of the entire proceedings, and you're going to write the introduction to it?
Absolutely. And the media is, of course, already freaking out about the prospect of a critical engagement with the January 6th report. Apparently, some other organization is putting something out. The New Yorker, this is going to be the version for people who actually want to know the truth. And a lot of people are very unhappy at the notion that I would have such a platform in order to critically engage with the January 6th committee. But frankly, there's a lot to criticize. In fact, the real question is, what is there not to criticize about this committee? It's a big sham. It's not asking any of the questions that one would ask if one were genuinely engaged in an objective investigation of what really happened on January 6th. It's largely theater, but there are other components as well. There's a kind of footsie game being played between the committee and the DOJ. Merrick Garland kind of ominously came out and acknowledged that he was watching the proceedings, and he assured the public that the January 6th prosecutors were watching as well. And this is part of the whole game. It's really how to use January 6th. The broader thing is how to use January 6th to reorient the entire national security state against Trump supporters. But the more immediate purpose is how to use January 6th to kneecap Trump in 2024 and kneecap his political allies for 2024 and even in the midterms. And what better way to do that than the looming threat of an impending criminal prosecution against Trump for any number of these sham charges based on the false narrative that the January 6th committee is propounding.
Last night, I don't think we have it booted up on Don Lemon. Do we have it booted up to Don Lemon? Don Lemon last night had a lawyer up there who's a never Trump guy. I think he's a former FBI, former prosecutor. He hates Trump. He's one of the paid hacks that's up there. And Don Lemon was going through the mantra. He said, look, there's so much, people are talking about Benny Thompson says they don't have the authority, but it's so overwhelming. They've made the case. Merrick Garland's got to do it. And this guy goes, are you kidding me? It has to show will from intent. He said, you've had some people up there that said they talked to him about it and that he hadn't won. But he said, how about all the other people out there that were all over him nonstop every day of the week telling him he had one? He says, you can't. And Don Lemon lost it on TV. They went back and forth and the guy kind of shut him down. Guy says, there's no way that you can indict Trump because other people were telling him and other people have facts. Maybe those facts turn out to be wrong, but the facts they were presenting Trump at the time gave him all of the headroom he needed to go ahead and pursue this to pursue it according to the rules of the Electoral Count Act of 1887 and other things related to the Constitution. Darren Beattie.
No, I mean the things that the committee is focusing on are beyond absurd. The first segment of it about this so-called big lie about the election. And by the way, this is part of the attempt to kneecap 2024 is to effectively criminalize any critical attitude toward the 2020 election. And I think it's always very important to keep in mind that this is sort of a judge, jury, and executioner operation insofar as Benny Thompson is the representative of the Department of Homeland Security in Congress. People don't know this. He's not just the chair of the January 6th committee. He's been a longtime chair of the Homeland Security Committee, and the Department of Homeland Security has been at the tip of the sphere in terms of this domestic war on terror. And in fact, leaked documents, which recently came out, Josh Hawley put them out along with, I think, Senator Grassley, pertaining to the now temporarily defunct Disinformation Governance Board out of the DHS. This board was set up to censor disinformation related to the 2020 election that, quote, in their words, led to extremist violence on January 6th. And so the whole portion about the big lie was, in keeping with this larger agenda of censoring any information about the election. The part about, Trump and Pence is just ridiculous. They're pretending that he incited violence by saying he was disappointed in Pence. He was a coward. He may have called him in private some, unflattering terms, and they're trying to elevate this to incitement. It's a ridiculous case. The things they're focusing on are a complete sham, a complete joke. And the most important things we need to ask about January 6th are the things you'll find on Revolver, not in the January 6th committee.
I know I can report this, that there will be a formal investigation on this in starting in January when the new House takes over with an overwhelming majority, a majority that won't be able to be undone for 2 or 3 cycles minimum, I think at least for 10, 20 years. But they're going to be a real investigation. And Darren, your reporting will be a key part of that. They're going to get to the bottom of Ashley Babbitt, the key thing of what the feds knew. I just sent you something last night. They're already talking about informants that have given up people or taken information from. But we do have to have an investigation. I agree. You and I have been in sync on this from the beginning. We need to find out what happened. I had Rodney Davis on here, who's the ranking member of the administration, the House Administration Committee. He said, hey, he was given an intelligence briefing the day before by the Capitol Hill Police. Their intelligence unit gave him a briefing. He said it turned out to be absolutely incorrect. He's found out other things since then, and he's already sent a preserve your documents. Davis has already sent a preserve your documents to everybody associated with Nancy Pelosi and everybody. That means, hey, they're rolling. Preserve it right now, particularly you mid-level and staff grundoons, because we're coming for you. We're going to get to the bottom of all this, and I think that needs to be done. Here's the thing. If they had really had a committee, you would have had a broader range of witnesses, and this thing would be even more nonsense than it is. However, I think it's interesting, the polling. Yahoo's just come out with a poll this morning, Yahoo YouGov, and Katie, the Yahoo guys would not want to put this out, but it had Biden at historic lows on like handling the economy. I think independents now are 24 or 25% support of Biden. I mean, these numbers are horrific. They actually show Trump and Biden a head-to-head match. Trump is up by a couple of 3 points already, and Biden is just in a complete implosion. You got the Atlantic article that says from Lebovich that says, hey, it can't be Biden in 2024. He's got to drop out. So there's no real public you don't see any polling. If they had any polling at all that said, hey, people are galvanized this, the audiences are all time, and people are calling their congressman and want more, they'd be all over it. But you agree with me that you don't feel that kind of heat? You're not seeing it, Darren Beattie?
No, but I certainly think that a large part of what's driving the committee, and in particular what's driving this recent aggressive push toward the potential of a criminal prosecution against Trump, is this fear among the Biden regime and the establishment that Trump's going to crush Biden in 2024. And The
Yes.
thought that they could use the criminal prosecution, the combination of public pressure through the committee, public pressure not only to the American public, but also pressure indirectly to Merrick Garland to actually go through with these criminal indictments against Trump. I think that's the next major play that's under active consideration to take Trump off the table moving into 2024.
I think they'll have I think that would be an issue given what the one-sided nature of what's been presented. Darren, how do people follow this the best? I know you guys have been all over it. What would you recommend to our audience?
Well, as always, revolver.news, we actually have a big piece coming out this weekend about a hidden figure that people may have heard of before in our reporting, but who has an as of yet unreported role behind the scenes in the January 6th committee. So I encourage everyone to stay tuned to that and read our archives. If you haven't, share them with your friends. I'm on Twitter at Darren J. Beattie. We're on Gitter at Revolver News. So stay tuned. We've got a lot more to come.
Darren, fantastic work, and thank you for the summary. I 100% agree to you that they're trying to weaponize these hearings to keep Trump off the ballot in 2024. It won't work, but that's obviously they're playing to an audience of one, and that's Merrick Garland. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's go back. If we have Mike Davis. In fact, I wanted to book in this anyway. Mike, you've got the committee playing to Merrick Garland to basically indict Trump on these phony charges, right? At the same time, Merrick Garland will not do his job as Attorney General to protect the justices of the Supreme Court from attempted intimidation by these left-wing groups. Mike Davis.
Attorney General Merrick Garland has completely politicized the Justice Department. It is just an instrument now of the Democrat Party and congressional Democrats. And it's a disgrace what he's done. He will sic the FBI after every grandmother who trespassed onto the Capitol grounds and took selfies on January 6th. He will sic the FBI after every parent in Loudoun County, Virginia, who show up to public school board meetings to protest the cover-up of rape in the schools. But he will not lift a finger to send the FBI to arrest people who are obstructing justice by intimidating Supreme Court justices and their families outside of their homes while they're deciding a pending case. That is a direct violation of 18 U.S.C. 1507. You do not have a First Amendment right to show up to a federal judge's home and obstruct justice. The Supreme Court has already ruled that this statute or a similar statute does not violate the First Amendment, and we have seen the deadly consequences. Again, Judge Esther Salas's 20-year-old son was killed in their home. Her husband was seriously wounded. An assassin tried to kill Justice Kavanaugh, his wife, and their two young daughters in the middle of the night. This is deadly serious. It has deadly consequences. And let's just remember, the Attorney General has kids. Speaker Pelosi has kids. Chuck Schumer has kids. Do they want Republicans, conservatives, showing up to their kids' homes and organizing protests? I seriously doubt it.
But the Republicans don't do it. That's the difference. These people are lawless. Real quickly, there's also been this rolling intimidation. I think it's, I don't know, Jane's Revenge, or they got these names of these Jane sent me, somebody else's revenge. They've been going and defacing church. Ruth sent me, Jane's Revenge. They've been, spray painting churches, trying to, I think, set fires to pro-life centers. Is the Justice Department going to have a task force? Do those people think they can get protection by our Justice Department?
Well, it is also a violation of federal criminal statute to vandalize churches. It's also a violation of federal criminal statute to go to pregnancy centers, just like abortion clinics. And of course, the Biden Justice Department has been completely politicized. The FBI director, Chris Wray, is completely in over his head, so he lets the deep state run him. When House Republicans take power in January, they need to impeach Attorney General Merrick Garland for his complete, utter dereliction of duty, putting Supreme Court justices and their families in grave danger of assassination.
Whoa, Mike, you're a pretty steady Eddie. I mean, you were Grassley's guy. You got Gorsuch through. You're known as a safe pair of hands. You're a hammer, but a safe pair of hands. here in Washington D.C. You know, you're clubbable. You're not quite gone full war room yet. Are you making a serious case that you, not Steve Bannon and the fire breathers, you actually believe that there are enough evidence out there to begin impeachment hearings, impeachment investigation, impeachment hearings on Merrick Garland specifically about this issue 100%. With the Supreme Court justices, sir?
100%. He has done, his job is to enforce federal criminal statute. It is a violation of 18 USC 1507 to obstruct justice by showing up and protesting and intimidating federal judges in their homes. They have been doing this for 46 days. Supreme Court justices and their families had to be removed from their homes. There was an assassination attempt on Justice Kavanaugh's wife and his two daughters. This was predictable and predicted. It just happened in 2020 with Judge Salas, her 20-year-old son Daniel, and who was killed, and her husband Mark, who was seriously wounded. There have been calls to enforce the law for 46 days. Merrick Garland has refused to do it. He said, at the same time, he's chased out every grandma.
Mike just froze again. Let's go ahead. I want to go to Dave Walsh anyway. I'll give Mike's getter feed and all that. So Mike Davis from the organization that tracks everything in the Supreme Court, calling for the impeachment of Merrick Garland. Pretty big. We'll make sure we get that up. Do we have Dave Walsh? Can I get Dave? Dave, I got about 5 minutes here in this A block, and the reason I wanted to get you up is that I'm confused. There's been a fire. You know, there's fires all these meatpacking plants, and there's dead cows everywhere. I mean, people are running around, and it looks like it could be some serious stuff, but they had a fire in an LNG plant. And I want to pull the camera back just for 1 second. Under Donald J. Trump, we were not energy independent. We were full spectrum energy dominant in every sphere, to the fact of not just taking care of America's needs so that we weren't beholden to the Saudis, we weren't beholden to Venezuela or the mullahs in Iran, but America had its energy. We're hitting all full bore, and full spectrum energy dominance means we were exporting. And LNG was a big part of this. Is one of the arguments we made with the Polish and with everybody. You don't need to take Russian gas. Get off it. We'll do LNG, be slightly higher. But in the long run, you'll have national security. Of course, our betters blew it off. You know, Trump doesn't know anything. Trump's incompetent. I saw the other day where there's a fire in an LNG plant, and I'm reading the stories, and it says that that means the cost of natural gas in the United States is going to drop by a couple of bucks. I'm confused. I thought a fire in a plant taking that capacity offline would send the prices up, sir. So explain to me what's happening here.
Well, the short-term only impact inside the U.S. is to divert that natural gas that's piped to the LNG Freeport terminal to use in the domestic system. So in a couple of week period, yeah, it has a false interim short-term effect on dropping prices, because guess what? Supply domestically is increased. It's not being converted to LNG at Freeport for the only 3 weeks that the plant's down. As soon as that plant's back up and running, that supply is going to be exported to, I believe, 70% of the capacity.
Stop. Are you telling me with natural gas up, I don't know, 300, 400%, we're actually still exporting to Europe now? You're telling me Joe Biden could, with a stroke of a pen, say, hey, nothing leaves the U.S.? I hate to beggar my neighbor, but you got to think about the cost of the natural gas. You already talked about people are not going to be air conditioning their homes in Florida, in Texas, in California, in Nevada that are dependent upon natural gas. Are you telling me right now that we're still exporting 70% of that and keeping the cost of natural gas higher for American citizens, sir?
That is what's happening. I mean, the LNG terminals that were built, for example, the one in Coveport, Maryland by Dominion, just got finished about 2 years ago. It is sold out based on commitments to Japan and Europe to export that LNG. When the plant was built based on that, they invested $2 billion in it based on that. Freeport, same thing, billions invested in that facility to export LNG. That is the reason those investors, and Kinder Morgan owns one in Georgia. It's also shut down. It's on an 18-month shutdown due to parts losses. So we've got a system built based on the fracking boom that does indeed, part of our net export position that we benefited from is those contracts, unfortunately, continue to be met. And, that's how, again, Dominion puts $2 million into an LNG facility to export LNG. Very hard to, suddenly default on all their contracts and then go ahead and revert to supply domestically. It's not easily done. We want the president doing that. Hold
on. But my point is to put America first, because you've already talked about. One, we're going to have a limitation problem. Number two, he says it's going to be so expensive. People got to keep themselves warm. They don't freeze to death. It's uncomfortable. Hey, maybe old people are going to die because of this, but you've been telling me, I think a lot of guys in Florida are going to be going out air conditioning. So I tell you what, hold on, hang on 1 second. I'm going to hold you over because this has got me worked up now. And not that I don't love our brethren over in Europe, and I know those LNG plants are part of, but hey, they're still buying from the Russians with both hands. So, and maybe they have to buy more, but Biden triggered this thing. And so now you got to look at every possibility. I think people are stunned to find out that we got a huge amount of natural gas going over. Why prices up here are up 350, 400%. Short break. I got Dave Walsh. I got Holly Kasun. I got Renz. I got Tom Renz. I got Dr. Paul Anderson. I got Raymond Ibrahim. We're packed with 30 minutes to go in the worm.
They put Peter Navarro in leg irons for simply doing his constitutional duty. Now they want to put Peter in prison for standing up for Donald Trump. Please go to Amazon right now and order Taking Back Trump's America to help fund Peter's legal defense. Taking Back Trump's America provides a critical MAGA blueprint to put Trump back in the White House in 2024. Buy Taking Back Trump's America on Amazon today. If they can put Peter Navarro in prison, they can come for all of us.
War Room Battleground with Stephen K. Bannon.
Welcome back. It is Friday, 17 June, year of our Lord 2022. Dave Walsh. So you're blowing my head. Look, we got it. Just give me, look, you're the guy that's become kind of a rock star on this show over the last 2 months because you've walked people through the energy problem. The increases to people's air conditioning. Let's leave the capacity we're going to have for the winter. The increases in air conditioning prices, essentially in Florida, Texas, and they got record heat coming, California and Nevada. Particularly Nevada and these places out west. I mean, they're baking right now. Arizona, and I don't know what Arizona has a natural gas thing. It's more coal out there, I believe. But what's the general increase going to be to an American citizen on their average bill, sir, given where it was when Trump was president to what it is now? What's roughly, it's a 300% increase?
Yeah, the average bill in the U.S. is 40% dependent on natural gas, probably 20 to 25% from March. And
increase in their natural gas.
Yeah, that piece of the bill. Now, the bill to begin with is set. This is a long discussion about the problem with the renewables. The bill is 72% the fixed system, the substations, the lines, the T&D system, the power plants. 28% of the bill is fuel. That 28% has quintupled. So when you do the math, and that's 40% of your average energy supply, that raises overall bills by 30%.
Okay,
because
fine.
A lot of it.
That's my people on fixed incomes in Florida. People, the deplorables are barely hanging on. You're talking about a 25% increase in your thing.
It's horrible.
It's horrible. Yeah. People are going to be saying, I can't air condition. A lot of old people are going to. Okay, so here's my question: if we stopped, and I'm not trying to. We talked about this on diesel, a month ago, where you said, hey, we could stop the diesel shipments to Latin America right now. It's going to make their life worse, but we could do it. If you stopped all LNG, natural gas to LNG, 100%, just roughly, that would bring that 25% increase down to what?
It would have an impact on increasing supply. Maybe it would move it as it has. Steve, here's the problem. You're exactly right, but here's the why. This natural gas is produced and piped. It's got to be sent somewhere. We had two critical pipelines rolling through Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Charlottesville on the way to the Eastern Virginia shore, both shut down. The Atlantic Coast Pipeline, Dominion and Duke invested $8 billion in. Permit after permit after permit fight with district courts across Virginia ended it. The pipeline is shut down. Supporting West Virginia fracked gas coming to the east coast of Virginia to heavily populated areas, Norfolk, Richmond, St. Petersburg, etc., up and down the East Coast. The Mountain Valley Pipeline over to Eastern Virginia, $6.2 billion. Also, it's been on delay for 4 years now due to permit issues, and again, district court stepping in to block it county by county by county. So this gas winds up going, as it's produced, it winds up going to Coves Point, and it winds up going down to Freeport, where it can be sold somewhere to be sold. Otherwise, we'd have had enormous quantity of natural gas up and down the Eastern Virginia coast from the Chesapeake Bay down through, northern North Carolina. Already had these pipelines been allowed to proceed. One of them is shut down completely on a permanent basis. The other
in 30 seconds. What would it take to get both those up and running? Efforts by the government and the companies to do it, and can it be done?
Dominion and Duke would have to restart their efforts. They announced after spending $8 billion on the Atlantic Coast Pipeline, ceasing it about a year and a half ago. Judge after judge in counties throughout Virginia stopping it in their county. We don't want this here. We don't want this pipeline in our county. It might leak, which is absolute falsehood. These pipelines are totally safe. Mountain Valley is supposed to be finished by 2023, but initially it was scheduled to be done by 2020. So that's been delayed 3 years. So the gas has nowhere to go except to the export terminals it's designated to.
Dave, I got to bounce, but I want to come back on Monday. Or Monday, we're doing the Juneteenth all day. I want to come back on Tuesday when everybody's back to work and get through. The weekend I'll work with you because this is outrageous. The natural gas prices through the roof. People are going to be not going to be air conditioning their home. They're going to be freezing this winter. And we're still exporting tons of this stuff overseas. And we got these pipelines. And Biden, these guys are lying to people. Give your how do people get you on Getter?
Dave Walsh Energy on Getter.
We got a lot to talk about. I want to do it in a more systematic way. You're amazing, and this natural gas thing is a disaster. Thank you, brother. Do we have? Can we play that? Can we play Holly's cold open? Are we ready? Let's play the cold open, Holly.
Conspiracy theories that persist about the 2020 presidential election are trickling down to local politics as well. In a new report, Vice News chief political correspondent Liz Landers examines how election lies are impacting one race in Colorado.
Here we are, the people telling you that the election system does not deserve or have our trust, nor does anyone who stands by it.
To believe otherwise is to be a conspiracy theorist or to be deemed a domestic terrorist. Really? America witnessed vote flipping real time on the television.
Do you trust the 2020 election results?
No, I do not.
Ma'am, those election tampering charges?
Excuse me. Yeah, I gotta get to. Excuse me.
Okay. So,
Thank you.
Please don't touch me, sir.
Don't touch you. You're touching me. So sorry.
You don't think the FBI had any reason to be investigating any of this? You think all of these charges are fake?
They're all fake. They're all drummed up. Every one of them. Every one of them.
So Liz Landers joins us now. Liz, talk more about what we were just seeing there in Colorado. What's going on, and what is it part of a much bigger strategy?
I think it is, Mika. Look, President Biden won Colorado handily in the presidential election, but there are pockets of Colorado that are still pretty conservative. One of those areas is Colorado Springs, where we were, and we really have seen this kind of take root all over the country. We've seen Proud Boys running in various races, school board races. And in El Paso County in Colorado, there is a group of election deniers, and they're running for various seats in that county right now. And one of them is running for the county coroner there. It's an elected position in El Paso County. And there's currently a Republican there who is the county coroner, Dr. Kelly, who we profile some in this piece. And his opponent is an election denier. And that is really her platform in this race right now. She is running alongside and attending events with other election deniers in Colorado, including Tina Peters, who is that candidate for Secretary of State that I asked in that clip about her own charges of election tampering that have been brought against her. And this woman who's running against the county coroner there has had movie screenings about the 2000 Mules movie, which we've seen brought up in the January 6th committee hearings. So this has really trickled down to the local level, even in races that have nothing to do with election administration.
And so where are these people coming from? Who is galvanizing them, so to speak, and to do this from the bottom up?
Yeah, I think that some of this is from the bottom up, and some of this is also from the top down with people like Mike Lindell. So Mike Lindell has been supporting a number of these candidates. He's given financial support to Tina Peters there in Colorado. So some of this is a coordinated effort, I think, from national election denying figures. But I think some of these people really do believe this. You had part of that clip there from the El Paso County Commission meeting where we heard, I don't know,
Memphis,
40, 50
Memphis, we can go ahead and take it down. Okay, thanks, Memphis. I appreciate it. That was great. The clip goes on. I want to bring in Holly Kasun. Holly, this is about your fight out in Colorado. This is the Army of the Awakened that we're putting together and supporting. You're one of the key parts of it. And, you know, you're part of that American, the cause of America. Tell me what's going on and why is Vice magazine, Vice News in full meltdown with Morning Mika?
Well, it signals to us that in Colorado, we're over the target. Vice reached out to me as the organizer, one of the organizers of the U.S. Election Integrity Plan. And this was months ago. And their line of questioning was all about QAnon. Now, we didn't see anything from Vice until just today. I just sent you the clip. And it has spun into an election denial piece on Colorado. And it's clear that things are happening in Colorado and they don't like it.
So tell me exactly what's going on. We only got a couple of minutes because I'm jammed up this afternoon. But you guys out there, you got the Tina Peters. We know and we're supporting everybody running for school boards. We want more people. I love the county coroner. It can't get any better than that. And of course, Morning Mika, she's in meltdown. Who's doing this? Who's in back of it? It's a populist uprising. Where do we stand in all this right now? I know Tina's been indicted, but she's still running. So where do we stand out there in Colorado?
Well, our primaries are coming up in just a few weeks, I believe on the 28th. And so we can tell just from the timing of this piece that they're trying to influence, getting the establishment Republican rhino candidates in Colorado. But it has been absolutely jarring to the GOP here, seeing that Tina's popularity, Ron Hank, he's another firm believer in election integrity. He's running for Senate. They're seeing these candidates all over the place pop up and being highly successful. And so they're trying to fight back with lies about the folks here in Colorado, but it's not working. And some of these candidates we don't even know about. I had no idea that there was an America First candidate running for coroner in Colorado Springs. And we think
it's wonderful.
Yeah,
it's a populist uprising. There's people popping up all over.
Yeah, all over.
Holly,
the place.
we got to bounce. How do people get to the cause of America? People should understand. Morning Mika, we know you guys watch the show and Media Matters. It's all over the place. People are running to the sound of the guns. I mean, this is like the old American Revolution. This is a populist uprising. It's self-organizing. There's no central figures to it. That's what I keep looking. You got Dan Schultz and you got Steve Sterner out there all the time pitching and saying, go there, go to these websites. But it's like Cause for America. You're just helping to coordinate people. This is people want to put the channel changer down, get off the sofa. How do they get you at Cause of America, Holly?
Go to causeofamerica.org and get signed up. You can get connected to your local grassroots organizations. We have folks all over the country. And you're right, Steve, we just help coordinate and get people piped into where they need to be to take action and it's working.
Well, they keep talking about democracy. This is democracy. When people are acting and said, hey, I want to be involved. I want to get involved in civic society. I think it's amazing. It's what this show's built for. And we just think it's so great for all you guys out there. Say hi to Tina and the entire crowd. She's a super warrior. And Holly, thank you for changing your schedule around today to join us.
Thank you.
Okay, I got Dr. Paul Alexander. Dr. Alexander, we had Naomi Wolf on in the morning show. Dr. Alexander, given all the warnings you're giving, all the research, all the investigation on Pfizer that Naomi's coming up with, how can we possibly have the FDA approving? And they seem like they're obsessed to approve the vaccinations, the vaccines for the babies. Walk me through this. I don't understand how this could happen, given all the information that's come out now. And I particularly don't understand the obsession, and it is an obsession they have to get into kids under 5. Dr. Alexander.
Hey, Steve, once again, it's a real honor to be here. Look, let me get to the point. When we look at all of the data, we look at data out of Sweden, out of Germany, out of the UK. We look at data by Marty Makary, Johns Hopkins. We look at all of the Nordic nations. We see that the risk of death in healthy children, young infants even, is basically zero. In fact, Sweden, Germany, and these places record no deaths in healthy children in this age group. Marty Makary's group, Johns Hopkins, showed us that I want to be clear how I make this statement. In the United States of America, since the beginning of this pandemic, not one healthy child has gotten infected with COVID and died. I'm going to say it again so the public could hear it. In the United States of America, during COVID, from day one to today, that's almost 2.5 years, not one healthy child has gotten infected with COVID and passed away, period. There is no data that Fauci, Francis Collins, Rochelle Walensky, anyone in the Biden administration or anyone even in the prior Trump administration has shown us to warrant any child. This is reckless. This is dangerous by what the FDA and the CDC has done. They have no data, Stephen. What they have done is they're relying on trials and studies that are very suboptimal and methodologically flawed. They're deliberately undersized in terms of the sample size being small, and they deliberately shorten the duration of follow-up. So you, the reader, don't realize that they cannot detect safety signals because the duration of follow-up is so short, the safety effects can't emerge. So what they're doing is deceiving and misleading the public, and they're using crazy procedures like immunobridging. They are not looking at the patient-important outcomes that you as a parent, you as grandparents need to know. Does this vaccine, let me be clear, does the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine cut the risk of hospitalization or death or ICU? Patient-important hard outcomes. There is no study that Pfizer and Moderna has done, none as of this moment, to show that these vaccines are effective in reducing hospitalizations or death. What they have done is they have run studies on antibodies, which means nothing to us because antibodies are not a proxy for immunity. So right now we are being misguided and misled with these flawed and I actually say fraudulent studies. What the FDA has done here and the CDC is wrong. And I want to go on record, Steve, by saying this is a hill that parents must battle on. This is a hill that parents must be prepared to wage their largest battle. No child should be given these vaccines. Absolutely none. There's no basis. Your child is at zero risk, statistical zero risk of severe illness or death from COVID. You stand up and you say no.
Dr. Alexander, how do people, I'm going to have you back on early next week. This is so controversial. How do people follow you on social media over the weekend?
They can go to my website, drpaulalexander.com. That's drpaulalexander.com, as well as my Substack, Alexander /COVID News. I put everything there. It's free. If you want to support, please help, but it's free. Please take a look. I'm putting all of the COVID science there. Thank you very much, Steve.
Dr. Alexander, I'm going to reach out to you after the show tonight, and we're going to get you back up early next week. This is too controversial. I know for some of you to come out there and say that definitively, parents need to pay attention. Thank you so much. Honored.
Thank you, sir.
Announcement of a major new book today. Raymond Ibrahim, who's been one of our stalwarts here, is putting out his new book. I want to make sure we get the cover up. Raymond, tell us about this book. Why now, and why do people need to know about these 8 heroes that defended the Judeo-Christian West?
Sure, Steve, thanks. The book's full title is Defenders of the West, the Christian Heroes Who Stood Against Islam. And I think it's very important for various reasons. You know, one, it'll show you, if you have any doubts what Islam has done historically, or if you've been buying into the narrative of, the Islamic tolerance, golden age, and it was really the brutal medieval Christians who were backwards, this will dispel that. It'll show you how Muslims for centuries were invading Europe and doing the same sorts of things that we see happening today. and we're told is not Islamic. But in this case, it was actually the empires themselves, the sultanates and caliphates and so forth. And the difference, again, between then and now is that the men of Europe, the Christian men, actually stood back very defiantly, and they had no qualms about resisting and actually even taking the war to the enemy in preemptive moves, oftentimes, just like as the Crusades were. And I have a few Crusader heroes in that book. So I think I wanted to, compare and contrast and give people some hope also, because I think it's very inspiring reading about these men and, looking at our leaders and just how completely different. We take it for granted, I think, that Western politicians have to be cynical, hypocritical, double standards, cowards, and so forth. But it wasn't always the case. I think it's important for people to know you can have intense, hardcore leaders that just went out of their way. Most of these men died very young.
Yeah. I'm going to come back next week and have you on because I want to go through something. This book has El Cid. It has Richard the Lionheart. It has St. Louis. It has Vlad the Impaler, Dracula. It has a cast of characters here that have been defenders and a lot of the times misrepresented by history. And that's why I think the power of your book. It's a forward written by Victor Davis Hanson. Can we show the cover of the book? Let's start with the cover right there. Magnificent cover. Defenders of the West. His original book talked about the 8 big battles. This talks about the 8 big heroes. Raymond, how do they go to Amazon right now and can order this book?
Yeah, it can be ordered right now on Amazon, probably other places, but the safest bet is Amazon. I think they even have it at the cheapest price with some discount. And another hero I think you're going to like is John Hunyadi. And his story is remarkably similar to Donald Trump because he actually was of the lesser nobility.
Hang on. I want to bring you in next week because we're down to the last minute. What I want people to do is go order this book. On social media, how do they get to you on social media?
Best place is my website, Raymond Ibrahim, IBRAHIM.com, and it has links to various social medias.
Defenders of the West, you've got a forward by Victor Davis Hanson. This is not going to put it down. These people are fascinating. Raymond, look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for taking time away today to join us twice. Tomorrow morning, we're going to have a special. Claire Dooley, a major young filmmaker, a major young conservative Christian filmmaker, is going to be with us. We're going to break down the convoy that came, that gave everybody the upbeat of hope. We are driving this agenda forward. We're going to focus on the convoy and the truckers tomorrow. Claire Dooley, in Peace and War. Join us tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. We're going to be back in the War Room.